Well, the Trump administration recently announced the end of DACA, a program offering protection to thousands of undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as minors. DACA recipients now have to wait as the decision is left up to Congress. Here now to discuss this latest issue and inform DACA recipients of their rights, we welcome now immigration lawyer Natalia Lusak, and we thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me today.
It's great to have you. And as we talk about this, obviously a lot of people, particularly here in our borough, are caught in the balance. And so if there's someone who falls under the DACA category, a lot of concern, what should people know at this moment?
So the main thing right now is that if people have work permits that are expiring between now and March 6th of next year, that they are able to renew their work permits, but they have to do it before October 5th. So there is a deadline with that, so it's very important that anyone who falls in that category applies now. It's also very important to get screened by an immigration attorney to see if they're eligible for other types of applications that they may not be aware of. That would allow them to obtain another status and stay here more permanently.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about staying here more permanently, obviously we know that that's left up to Congress right now. And so if Congress decides that can, but what do people do right now in the interim? Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this process. And I was talking to someone just the other day, and they were saying, I really don't know about school. I don't know about moving forward like that. How would you advise somebody to proceed?
Their work permits will be valid until they expire. At that point, we'll have to see what happens in Congress. If their work permits expire, unfortunately, those DACA recipients would not be authorized to work in the United States. In terms of school in New York State, DACA recipients have been eligible for in-state tuition. I'm not sure if that will continue moving forward. I think that would be a state decision, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Also, there's the DREAM Act that has been passed by the Assembly, but is now will be debated in the Senate, the state Senate, to see if undocumented students can get scholarships in New York State.
Yeah, we know that's still up for debate. Now talking to us, because DACA recipients do have Social Security numbers.
Correct.
So what happens now with the Social Security number, given the fact that, hey, this still remains on the table?
The Social Security number is still theirs, actually. It does say on it valid only with work authorization, so the fact that they will not have a valid work permit if this program is not able to continue based on what happens in Congress, then technically they won't necessarily be able to use it to work, but they still will have a Social Security number that is theirs.
So they can keep the number as long as they're working, technically.
Technically, it's still their number. Even after it expires, it's their number, but a lot of employers want to see the work permit to allow people to work. But in terms of using that Social Security number for possible scholarship applications and things like that, it is still their number.
Mm-hmm. So with this decision, obviously, it lies, as we continue to say, in the fate of Congress right now. But those who fall under DACA still do have rights. So as a lawyer, please advise some of the people who may be watching right now, what rights do I still have, given the fact that the president has made this decision?
Immigrants and all undocumented people or documented people have certain rights under the Constitution. One that I always talk about is a right against unreasonable search and seizure, which basically means if immigration or police come to their home, they should have a warrant to enter, or they need permission from an adult in the home. So we advise our clients to, if someone knocks on their door saying they're police or immigration, to ask that they put the warrant under the door and see that it's signed by a judge, that it has a name of someone who lives in the home, and that it has the correct address. If it doesn't have that information, that person does not need to allow immigration or police in the home. Another right is the right to remain silent. So if someone is approached by an immigration official in the street, for example, the only information they're required to give is their name, but they don't have to say where they're from, what their status is, where they live, or any information like that. They also have a right to due process, which means that before someone is deported from the United States, in many cases, they have a right to go in front of an immigration judge and make a claim for why they should be able to remain in the United States and not be deported. And in immigration court, they do have a right to be represented by a lawyer. Unfortunately, it's not paid for by the state, but they do have a right to have a lawyer in court.
And here in New York, obviously, we understand that there's a little bit more leniency. And of course, the governor says that New York is going to be one of those sanctuary states. So does this give much more advantage to people who fall under DACA right now?
I think that we are fortunate to be living in New York City and New York State, where there's so much support for immigrants and funding for services such as providing attorneys in immigration court, because that really makes a difference for someone's immigration case if they're represented by an attorney. So those types of things definitely help immigrants living in New York State.
When is the specific time that an immigrant has to disclose his or her status? So you're saying, like, you know, if they come, if you're stopped on the street, I could just say my name. I don't have to say where I'm from. Is there any particular time that I do have to just say where I am from?
No. I think that you do have the right to remain silent. Better to not say anything than to lie. That's always, so saying that you are a citizen or saying that you do have a status that's not true is worse than just saying nothing at all.
Right, invoking the right to stay silent
Exactly.
is the most important thing. Natalia, thank you so much for coming
Thank
and sharing
you.
with us. Of course, it's valuable information because many immigrants are currently in the borough of the Bronx. As we said, we're home to 1.4 million people. Many of those people who are watching do fall under this category. So if you have any questions, make sure that you reach out. The information is at the bottom of the screen. You can touch base with Natalia or somebody else. That way you can find out. You become better informed under the current set of circumstances. Natalia, once again, thanks for coming to share with us. All righty, listen, we're taking a quick break. Stay with us. We got more open coming up. We'll be right back right after